T, Corona, Gravely Zero Turn Lawnmowers, Jackson Lumber, Team Impact, Blue Moon Belgian White, and FindMassMoney.gov. On 98.5 The Sports Hub.
Roby Gonzalez, 3-run triple's got a man at first, another at second with 2 down. He grounds that one to the third baseman, Arias. And will do it. Baltimore ran away with this one on Memorial Day. Final score 11-3. Red Sox still trying to beat them for the first time this season. Boston now 0-4 against the Birds.
Yeah, I've been counting on Cooper Crispo to go out there and give you quality starts, and tonight just kind of snowballed on him there in that 4th inning. A couple of big innings from the Orioles put this one away early in the bats. Just quiet once again. Got 3 late, but for the most part of this game, unable to kind of get anything going. Got to get the offense rolling.
Once again, Baltimore wins it 11-3. They take game 1 here on Memorial Day.
Well, nothing like a dose of the Baltimore Orioles to get you right back to reality. Red Sox get their asses kicked on Memorial Day. That's what Memorial Day was for, just to remember what the Red Sox are. 11-3 was your final score against the Orioles. We got a bunch to get to in the program tonight. If you want to talk baseball, you're going to get a chance this week, because with the Celtics now in the NBA Finals, the conference finals over as a result of their victory over the Indiana Pacers last night. God, that feels like it was 2 days ago for some reason. We'll have full programs pretty much all week right here on the Baseball Hour. 617-779-0985. We'll start taking your calls right away. The biggest story from the weekend with the Red Sox to me was what happened on Sunday at Fenway Park involving Chris Martin pitching to the Milwaukee Brewers and getting all bent out of shape because the Brewers bunted against him in the 7th inning, which we'll get to momentarily. But this is one of those stories, and I say momentarily because I do want to touch on the Red Sox in the bigger picture here for just a second. But this is one of those stories over the weekend that frankly gives the game a bad name with Chris Martin, which, again, we will touch on here in a second. But as a result of the loss to the Orioles yesterday, and I don't know how many of you watched it. I know it's not many. It is one of those days where people will tune into the game because it's Memorial Day, but relative to other Memorial Days, the number was low. And again, I use this topic as a backdrop for the Baseball Hour for the rest of the season. If you watched yesterday, I want to know why. If you listened yesterday, I want to know why. What drove you to the game? If you're digging into the season, you're digging into the Red Sox, I want to know why. What impetus is there for you as a fan to stay connected to the team during a season like this one, in which the Red Sox are not just astonishingly mediocre, they are perfectly mediocre. Perfectly mediocre. You could not get any more mediocre than the Red Sox are to this point. In fact, let me give you some of the numbers. Did you know, Jimmy Stewart, the Red Sox have now played 54 games, which is precisely 1/3 of the season. Precisely. Now, way back when, I had a general manager tell me, in fact, it was Dan Duquette. Dan Duquette said Memorial Day was always a good barometer to take stock of your team and figure out what the hell you had and what you didn't. And then one of the years he was GM, I said, so what's the stock of your team? He said, well, actually, we need a little more time. I really don't think you do. Then Billy Beane came into baseball, and he started to approach it from the standpoint of you use the first 2 months to evaluate your team, the next month to fix it, and then pretty much you're at the All-Star break. You make any moves that you're going to make, and now you play out the balance of the season. Now, the Red Sox, I don't think are necessarily looking to add to this team, which we'll get to also later in the program. But I do look at it, and I say you couldn't be any more in the middle than the Red Sox are. 54 games, precisely 1/3 of the season. They are 27-27, on pace for 81-81. Again, you could not be any more mediocre than they are. And did you catch this comment from Rob Refsnyder to the media? I saw it in Mass Live. I'm sure he said it to a group of people. Maybe he said it to just Mass Live. It doesn't really matter. It's not a news-breaking comment. Rob Refsnyder said, And again, I'm going to try not to laugh. We've had a lot of injuries. Guys have really fought to be 500. It's a lot of work to be mediocre, Jimmy Stewart. Don't you know that? It's a lot of work. Got to put in a lot of effort to get to 500. 27-27. Not easy to do. Now, I've had a number of people tell me also or send me the numbers of what the Red Sox are against good competition and bad competition in that 27-27. Did you know that the Red Sox against teams, against winning teams with a winning record, 500 or better, 10-19. Against teams with a losing record, 17-8. Which again is just about perfect for who they are. They play teams who suck, they're good enough to beat them. They play teams who are good, they suck enough to lose. And in the case of the Orioles, they suck enough to lose big. Baltimore, the division champion a year ago, candidate for the wild card or contender for the wild card. Red Sox 0-4 now against the Orioles this year. They lost 11-3 yesterday. Combined score of all the defeats, 34-13. You have not really been in any of the games. Not really, maybe for half of it, but then get blown out. Against the Atlanta Braves. And by the way, when you list the Red Sox opponents, Atlanta and Baltimore are the first two on the list. Red Sox are 0-2 against the Braves, 0-4 against the Orioles, 0-6 against those two clubs. Combined scores of the defeats to the Braves, 9-2. You add it all up, combined score of the 6 losses to Atlanta and Baltimore is 43-15. The Red Sox have gotten their asses kicked by those two teams. So Rob Refsnyder, God love him, talking about how they've had to grind to be 500, also told Chris Smith of Mass Live, right there in the wild card. Right there in the wild card, he said. I think all of us can agree we'd like to be playing better. Offensively, we just need to catch some breaks. Just better at bats, honestly. Probably with guys in scoring position, we need to do a better job capitalizing on that. We all know that. Okay, now again, this is from the Chris Smith story. The Red Sox rank 14th in runs scored and batting average. They are tied for 12th in on-base percentage. They are 10th in slugging percentage and 9th in OPS. Again, pretty much in the middle of everything. They rank 21st in the majors in batting average with runners in scoring position. They are also 20th in on-base and 21st in slugging percentage in that category. So with men on base, they're in the bottom half of the league, which again fits. So those situations, runners in scoring position, particularly ones with 2 outs and runners in scoring position, I always equate those to like third down in football. That's what those are, those at bats. The Red Sox in the bottom half of the league, really in the bottom third. So they are who they are. Rob Refsnyder can talk about them being in wild card contention. Right now, they're out of a wild card spot. The fact of the matter is they're an extraordinarily mediocre baseball team. They're perfectly average, and I don't think that's going to change. And in fact, if it stays the way it is, the Red Sox will sell at the deadline, and there are already stories and rumors out there about them doing so with some particular players who they tried to move during the offseason. So we'll get to that, 617-779-0985. And again, as a backdrop, always, if you were drawn to the game, I want to know why. I think other people would want to know why. What is compelling you to watch the Red Sox during a season in which very few people are? What is drawing you there? Jeff in the car, what do you got? Jeff, I'm going to put you on hold. Sit tight. You got a bad connection. Don't go anywhere. I'll come right back. Justin's in New Hampshire. Justin, go ahead.
Hey, man, just to answer and talk about that question about why some of us are still watching and listening. I don't know if you're looking for the nitty gritty, the stats, the things like that. But as far as baseball in general, I think so much of it with my generation is still a nostalgia thing. Growing up watching Mo Vaughn and Pedro and all of these guys, it's certainly, yeah.
Justin, how old are you?
I'm 45.
Okay. So look, and again, I'm not making fun of you. I'm just asking. So, again, you're on the older end of it. Frankly, though, I'm surprised that you're still watching too. So you're close to my generation. I'm a little older than you. I have trouble watching. I haven't watched a lot of baseball of late. I've kept tabs on what's going on. But with the Red Sox, and as much as I'm a baseball fan, I'm a Red Sox fan first. I grew up a Red Sox fan, is what I should say. I've always felt I could separate the two. And when I started covering the team, I had no choice. I had to separate the two. I try to look at them objectively. But I've always cared about the team. Grew up here. I don't know how you grew up here when we did. I presume you're from the area originally. I don't know how you grew up here when we did and not be a follower of the team. It was that big a thing for that period of time. I can't bring myself to dig into it like I used to. They're not compelling enough for me. I expect a championship caliber team or something close to it. They don't have that right now. And I certainly, no, they compete. I'll give them that. And there were some exciting moments. They won a game on Sunday where in the 8th inning in a 1-1 game, Rafaela led off with a double to left. Duran followed with a single, 2 pitches. They had scored a run. They won the game 2-1. I would also tell you, though, that game, to me, was one of the more, what is one of the more embarrassing moments of the season if you are a Red Sox follower, and frankly, if you wear a Red Sox uniform. Some people in particular. We'll tell you what that was when we come back. And yes, I'm talking about the Chris Martin incident with Quentin Berry, the first base coach of the Brewers. We'll do that.
Cuffs, nothing like that. Now, this is Martin covering first base. They had some words there with Quentin Berry, their first base coach, who played for the Red Sox at one point.
I don't understand this. Now, there was a cover earlier, too, right, for Contreras. I don't know if there was something said earlier, but, I mean, Chris Martin is covering first base on the Yelich ground ball. He gets the ground ball from Smith, and Quentin Berry starts yapping at him. I don't know if he said something first to it or not, but, I mean, you're the first base coach. The guy's upset or whatever it is, player walking off the field, you're a first base coach. Grab the stuff from your player and get back to the bench. So this is what we're seeing here. Now, it's a ground ball to first base. Martin gets over, fields it. I don't know what's going on here, but Martin's talking to himself. Berry now starts yapping to him, giving him some trouble.
Because, again, we all think today is Monday. Today's Tuesday, so this all goes back a couple of days. But this was the Sunday game against the Brewers. This thing was unbelievable. I don't know how many people saw this. If you didn't see it, we do have it up on our website. I wrote about it this morning for the website, 985thesportshub.com. Okay, but beyond that, it really gets into a bigger picture issue, a philosophical issue about what is and what is not allowed in Major League Baseball. And for those of you on the phone, 617-779-0985, I'll get to you in just a second. Jeff was on a car in the last segment. We had a bad connection. He called back. So, Jeff, just sit tight for a second. This thing on Sunday, it's a 1-1 game in the seventh inning. Chris Martin comes into the game. Okay, Chris Martin, who's 39 years old, I think, or something like that. Pretty close. He's in his late 30s.
I believe he's 37.
Okay, 37, whatever. 37, 38, 39, somewhere in that avenue. Okay, he's on that road. Been around the big leagues a long time. Chris Martin has pitched in the big leagues a long time. I can't tell you how much respect I just lost for him over the weekend. This guy came off as a complete, total tool. And Lou Maloney, and I say this with all due respect, because Lou didn't get it right, and it's not his fault. I initially thought the same thing Lou did. He's up in the booth. He's watching the game. All of a sudden, the first base coach and the relief pitcher are chirping at each other. You're like, what the hell is the first base coach doing? Shut your pie hole and go back to the dugout. What's he, talking trash to Martin? Initially, I thought, did Martin, cross the bag in front of the runner who was Christian Yelich or what have you for the final out of the inning? So Martin was on the mound for 6 pitches. 6. Let me tell you how the whole thing went down so you fully understand what happened. 6 pitches with Chris Martin. The leadoff man is the number 9 hitter in the lineup, Blake Perkins, who many of you probably don't know because why would you? He's the number 9 hitter for the Milwaukee Brewers. Felger knows who that is, but the large majority of you do not. He's a nobody. Batting 9th. First pitch of the inning, you know what he does? Pushes a bunt up the third baseline. Again, 1-1 game in the 7th. Pushes a bunt up the third baseline. Beats it out because Blake Perkins is fast. So Martin has to come off the mound to field the ball. Devers actually ends up fielding it, but the guy beats it out. Then the leadoff man comes up. Bryce Turang, if I'm pronouncing that correctly. Turang then bunts up the first baseline. So it's not a great bunt. It looked like he might have been bunting for a hit, but it could have been a sacrifice. Martin fields the ball, throws him out at first. Now the runner's on second. So in a 1-1 game in the 8th inning, Milwaukee bunts twice and gets a runner to second base. Then the next 2 batters, William Contreras grounds out to the right side. Dominic Smith, the first baseman, fields the ball. He's well off the bag. So, Jimmy, when a guy hits a ground ball to the right side and the first baseman fields it and he's, 10 feet off the bag, maybe 15, the pitcher has to do what?
Run over to first base.
Bingo. So, Chris Martin, who has now had to come off the mound twice in a row to field bunts, even though he didn't get to the first one, he had to come off the mound to field it, then had to run first to cover first base. Runner goes to third. By the way, at this point, Chris Martin has thrown 3 pitches in the inning. He's got 2 outs and a man on third. 3 pitches. Christian Yelich comes up, hits another ground ball to the right side. Martin now has to run again to first base to cover first. Catches the toss from Smith. The inning is over. And this is what most of us misinterpreted at the time. It looked like Quentin Berry was chirping at Chris Martin, when in fact Chris Martin was chirping at Quentin Berry. Chris Martin, after throwing 6 pitches, 5 strikes, to get 3 outs in the 8th inning, but unfortunately for him, had to field the ball and cover first twice, is bitching to Quentin Berry about the 2 guys who bunted. So, Jimmy, while we're at it, if we could, let's get Chris Martin's comment after the game. This is what Chris Martin said about the exchange with Quentin Berry. I should mention, by the way, just quickly, the bench is emptied. The sides had to be separated. Chris Martin then acted like a tough guy, started walking to the dugout, turn around, come back, like, sticking his chest out, like, what are you saying to me? And then all of a sudden the whole thing gets diffused. Everybody goes back to
Andrew
the dugout.
Bailey was ready to fight somebody.
All because Chris Martin was upset that the Milwaukee Brewers had the audacity to bunt in a 1-1 game with the number 9 hitter who was looking to get on. That's what pissed him off. That's what caused the dugouts to empty. Because Chris Martin was pissed that the Brewers were bunting. Here's what he said after.
With Quentin Berry as you're coming off.
Yeah, I probably said some things under my breath. That was kind of directed towards that inning. I'll let y'all determine what them things were. Heat of the moment. They bunted twice. You see they bunted there at the end of the game. I don't know. I didn't like it. I know it's part of the game, but it is what it is. I'll let them know.
As a pitcher, do you feel like disrespected, or what's the?
Honestly, probably a compliment. Maybe they don't think they can get a hit or whatever. They put a good swing on a pitch, and I don't know. I feel like this league swing the bat. That's it.
This league swing the bat. Are you serious? Are you serious? This league swing the bat so you can't bunt? When did they take bunting out of the rule book? Someone tell me that? Is that no longer allowed? Bunting no longer allowed? You can't bunt? That's no good? No good. You can't do it.
Apparently not.
I see. So, right. So then, again, now we're back to this whole thing where everybody has to play the same way. You got to go up there and try to launch the ball out of the ballpark and swing from your ass. Speed and bunting and back control and defense, those things don't matter. Right, because Chris Martin doesn't want them to matter. He doesn't want to play baseball. He doesn't want to get off the mound and field his position. And incredibly, he's one of the few pitchers in the game who's actually in shape. The rest of them are fat dumps on the mound who can't run around and field their position. I'm convinced, by the way, this is part of the reason why, like the Red Sox, there must be some code when Kenley Jansen comes into the game that no team can bunt because Kenley Jansen can't get his fat ass off the mound and field a bunt. If I were the Brewers, I'd have done it to Kenley Jansen. I would have done it again just to piss off the freaking Red Sox. What an embarrassment. Seriously, that is an embarrassment. Chris Martin at this level swing the bat? So Ceddanne Rafaela should be swinging the bat when he's hitting 200 when he might be able to put down a bunt and win a game? That's the stupidest thing I've ever heard. Stupid. Colossally effing stupid. And if it's a compliment, as Chris Martin said, well, it's actually kind of a compliment. Well, if it's a compliment, what are you getting pissed off for? And he muttered something under his breath. He said it loud enough so Quentin Berry could hear it. And if you watch the replay of it, it's pretty clear what he said. Effing wussy, except he didn't say wussy. Okay, that's what he said. You've got to be kidding me. And you know what I'm always interested in these kinds of stories? Who in the clubhouse is on the player's side on their team, and who's looking at him going, you a-hole. You're a jerk. No, I take it back. You're a dick. Not bunt. So again, Jarren Durant, 1-1 game late in the season. You look at making the playoffs. Jarren Durant can't bunt? He can't drag a bunt up the first baseline and get on base? You can't try to win the game that way? Not allowed? And what if the game now matters to Milwaukee? What if they make the playoffs or miss the playoffs by a game? So they shouldn't have tried to win that day in Boston by bunting. Asinine. Completely asinine. Jeff in the car, you there?
Yes, I'm here. I can't even talk about the Martin thing because it's just absolutely insane. But as a diehard Red Sox fan, I'll tell you why I watched the game the other night.
Sure.
To be honest, I needed something to pay my bar tab, and Orioles minus 1.5 was free money. Thanks. Have a great night.
Okay. All right. Well, that's fair. So again, I did issue the disclaimer last week, Jimmy Stewart, that that gambling is not a legit reason because you can watch any game when you gamble. It's really not about the game. It's about the money. So I'm interested in the product that is Red Sox baseball. What do people find engaging or compelling or interesting about the product that is 2024 Red Sox baseball? Please tell me. Now, I will say, oddly enough, that a relief pitcher bitching about the other team bunting in a 1-1 game, to me, I find interesting because I think it's asinine. It's the kind of thing that would drive you away from the game. But as I said earlier, I'm always interested about how the guys on the players' team, in this case, the guys on the Red Sox, how they look at it. Ceddanne Rafaela should be bunting for hits if he's not. I would say the same for Duran just because he's so freaking fast and he's left-handed. He pushes one up the third baseline. He's on. That's a hit. So I would love to know what some of the other players on the team think about Chris Martin's cockamamie theory that at this level you should be swinging the effing bat. I'd like to see Ceddanne Rafaela swing the bat less, frankly. Because I've seen him swing it plenty, and he kind of sucks. So Kevin Majori has got your headlines. And then I want to tell you what Alex Cora said when asked about Chris Martin's reaction and what led to the whole dispute. We'll get to that on the Baseball Hour when we come back.
Sports Hub headlines.
The Patriots have signed quarterback.
So what Alex Cora said about Chris Martin's reaction, and it was really a general question about the dugouts emptying. So Quentin Berry, whom Cora called cute. Quentin Berry actually played for the Red Sox for a short period of time.
World champion in 2013.
So I think he was an extra outfielder.
He was the Dave Roberts spot for 2013.
He basically was a pinch runner, but I think he was an outfielder by position. But he was largely there for his pinch running and his speed. So Quentin Berry he was a good job, Jimmy, picking that up, or finding that. I thought they had acquired him but you remembered it right. As you said it, I remembered it. He was again, the Dave Roberts acquisition. It's a good comparison. Quentin Berry, to my recollection, most people don't even remember he played for the Red Sox. Okay? And my recollection was there was never any issue with Quentin Berry.
No, quiet guy.
I mean, again, he was barely here. And all of a sudden, he starts flipping out on the pitcher. So can we play Cora's answer again? Because the question is a more general answer about what did you think of what was going on there? What happened? How did the dugouts empty? Why all of a sudden was this threat of a fight? So again, I want you to listen to Cora's answer. Go ahead, Jimmy.
I think Q took exception to something Marty said. I mean, I don't know, players are the players, right? And our job is to avoid stuff like that as coaches. So.
Okay, so again, the question to Cora was, what was that all about? And I think Q took exception to something Marty said. So again, in the broadcast, I, like Lou Merlone, looked at it and said, what the hell is the first base coach doing picking a fight with the reliever? What the hell is that? But, in fact, Berry was responding to something Martin said. Cora gives a better explanation of it. And then, players are going to be players. Now, remember that in the interviews, you say, well, wait a minute. Martin said after the game that he was pissed off that they were bunting. Cora spoke before that. The media goes in and speaks to Cora first. Then they go into the clubhouse and talk to the players. So Cora comes first in the postgame. So I think when Martin got back to the dugout, Cora already knew what the whole thing was about, and he thinks his pitcher is a wuss bag. So while Berry is calling, while Martin is calling Berry and the Brewers wussies for bunting the ball, Cora, I think, looks at his pitcher and said, oh, God, would you shut up? Please. Now, he doesn't even address that topic as to who was at fault. Players are going to be players, he says. Cora last week was talking about his team putting the ball in play. Remember this? Baseball has changed. They're trying to get away, or let me rephrase. Baseball is trying to change. They're trying to get away from launch angle, strikeouts, walks, bums playing the outfield and first base because all we want to do is put 9 guys out there that can jack the ball into the seats because home runs are the most efficient way to score. The analytics have completely overrun the game to the point where they had to change the rules. So baseball did. And the idea now is to reintroduce speed, defense, athleticism. They even made the bases bigger to introduce more base running in the sport. All of that. They're trying to change all of these things. The Red Sox had a 5-run rally last week in which 10 men went to the plate and they had no extra base hits. They struck out once when they sent 10 men to the plate. So here you have a situation where the manager of the team is preaching small ball, and you have a reliever in the bullpen that wants to start a fight because the other two players on the other team elected to bunt. Just to refresh everyone's memory, Jimmy, can we play that Cora comment from last week?
In this business, everybody, wants to hit the ball out of the ballpark, and I mean, certain moments you got to put the one play, and we did. Ref did it. Dom did it. It started with a walk. We put pressure on them. We ran the base extremely well today, but the value of putting the ball in play. It was huge today, and we're going to keep preaching that. I know some people probably hated it, hate that, but I'm the manager. I'm asking that from my players.
Okay, I'm the manager. I'm asking that from my players. And he used the phrase in there, we put pressure on them with the base running. Tell me, what were the Brewers trying to do with the bunt? They were trying to put pressure on the Red Sox. So again, the leadoff man bunts up the third baseline, forces them to make the play, gets a hit. He beats it out because he's fast. So he put pressure on them with his speed. Then the next guy bunts and puts pressure on them to make the play to get the out. Chris Martin had to field that one. So Chris Martin had to come off the mound twice. Then for the next two batters, had to cover first both times. Oh, poor guy. Had to actually run. Had to actually do something other than throw the ball to the plate and let everyone else field it. He actually had to field his position, play his position, and get people out. Because he didn't want the other guys to do anything underhanded like bunt for a hit. What a freaking baby. And I said this in the last segment that I'm always interested about what they feel in the clubhouse. Because there are times when teams or players will do things to win that are deemed to be underhanded. Bunting for a hit is not one of them. So, Jimmy, you're right. And again, I'm getting off track here a little bit, but do you remember years ago in the playoffs, the Red Sox played the Yankees? Pedro went to the mound. You're going to remember once I give you the details. Pedro had nothing. Had nothing. The Yankees were slapping him around early. And he threw a ball behind the head of Kareem Garcia. You remember that?
Who are you? Who are you, Kareem Garcia?
Exactly. So Pedro didn't like the fact that he was getting his ass kicked, and Kareem Garcia was at the plate. So you know what Pedro did? He whipped one behind his head. Garcia then looked to the mound. The Yankees got pissed off. Zimmer came, later on, Zimmer came scrambling out of the dugout, ran after Pedro, who then threw Zimmer to the ground, which in that particular incident, I don't blame Pedro. The guy was charging at him. But that came after Roger Clemens threw one under Manny Ramirez's chin. Because Clemens was like, okay, well, this is what we're going to do, then I'm going to throw at your guy. Pedro started the whole damn thing. Started the whole damn thing. In the clubhouse after the game, nobody said anything in support of Pedro. Nobody. The players were pissed. They were pissed about it. And in fact, I can't remember, I think it was Jason Varitek who said, we asked him, what'd you think of Pedro today? He said, well, he did what he needed to do to compete in that game. Which I thought was a very tactful, clever way of saying that was some cheap-ass crap, but he had nothing, and it was all he could do to try to keep us in it. But in no point did he say, I was proud of what he did out there. Not even close. So now that is throwing a ball behind a guy's head. That is not bunting for a hit. I'd like to think those two things aren't on the same level. Trying to hurt someone deliberately. Although in Chris Martin's twisted head, he probably looks at it and said, well, what if I pull a hamstring? What if I strain a calf coming off the mound to field a grounder? Hey, if you're out of shape, that's your problem. What I would like to see, I'd like to see teams do more of that. In fact, Kenley Jansen, if I were an opposing team, I would bunt the hell out of Kenley Jansen just to see him waddle off the mound and see if he could field it and actually throw someone out. That's what I would do. Matt in Framingham. Matt, what do you got?
Hey, how's it going? Yeah, players saying that bunting's wrong. It's like saying that stealing's wrong or like throwing a sweeper's wrong. It's a competitive part of the game, right? It's actually a fun part of the game to have a surprise bunt. Chris Martin, kind of a wussy, yeah.
Go ahead.
But yeah, problem with the game, though, I think there aren't any fan-favorite players, probably for the same reason, right? The game is boring. I'm not rooting for the guy who walks a lot, right? Also, that guy doesn't have a nickname like Big Poppy or anything. He just walks, right? And I guess at this point, the sport's just second tier compared to basketball, football, even hockey, right? The most famous guy in town is Jason Tatum. We don't have any of those guys. Why don't you just make it more accessible? Put some free games on network TV, make the tickets a little bit less expensive. You got to kind of start from the bottom to grow it again like it used to be.
Yeah, so, Matt, look, I think that's part of it. I think people misconstrue this part of it. It's easy to say, well, there are no stars. There's no one I want to watch. Well, I would agree. That's part of it. If they had good players but they sucked, you still wouldn't watch. You might tune in when a great pitcher's on the mound, and you might dig in for that game. But you're not going to watch a whole baseball game to see 4 at-bats from Mookie Betts if they go 60 and 102. I mean, if you have the MVP of the league, but you're on a suck team, not many people are going to watch that. You might watch Ohtani, But how many players like that are in baseball? How many Otanis are there in the world? Not many. So the idea of the superstar, look, what you really want is both. You want a competitive team, championship caliber, and you want star players that can also, and entertaining players that can engage you along the way. You want both. The Red Sox right now have neither. They don't have any great players. They don't have any compelling players. There are some pitchers that are having some good years and that are pretty good, and I'm interested in those guys. I'm interested in watching Tanner Houck to see how long he can do it. I think he's for real. Bayo, to me, has been a little bit of a disappointment, but can be dynamic. So I'm interested in Bayo. But that's it. Who else? Devers? So again, Devers is a good point. Devers had a stretch. The most exciting part of this Red Sox season has been Devers' home run streak. But even then, the ratings didn't go up because the team's not good. So a lot of people aren't even going to remember it. 5 years from now, a lot of people won't even remember that it happened because it wasn't of any consequence. So they need both. This year, they're giving you neither. And incredibly, let's say in the next month that the Red Sox play well and the competition is going to stiffen. What are they going to do? Are they going to add or are they going to subtract? And there was a story over the weekend originating with Bob Nightingale of USA Today, who's covered the sport a long time, that should enrage you if you're a Red Sox fan. We'll get to that when we come back. with baseball, and I understand, and look, I love the game. I've loved it my whole life. And I understand that not everybody has to be built the same way, but can you get in shape? Can you get in a league? You're supposed to be an athlete. It's like that famous John Kruk line from years ago. He was a first baseman for the Phillies. For those of you who don't know, Kruk was kind of fat, looked like a softball player, good hitter. And I know it's a skill game, but Kruk came out of the dugout once with his hat on backwards, his shirt hanging out. A lady from the stands yelled out, some woman from the stands yelled out, hey, Kruk, what the hell's wrong with you? Look at you. What kind of athlete are you? I said, hey, lady, I'm no athlete. I'm a baseball player. Totally different. But back to Jansen real quick. This was written by Bob Nightingale over the weekend. The Boston Red Sox plan to trade All-Star veteran closer Kenley Jansen by the trade deadline. Plan to trade All-Star closer Kenley Jansen by the trade deadline. He's earning $16 million this year, and the Red Sox have no interest in bringing him back. No mention of where the Red Sox will be in the race. No mention of it's an either or if they're out of it. Nope, just says they're going to trade him no matter what. There were rumors of them trading Jansen before the season. So think of that. How's that for the message to your fan base? Before the season starts, you trade Chris Sale, whom admittedly most people are happy to see go. But even so, with Sale gone, or by sending Sale out, you effectively are telling your fans we're not going to keep the most expensive pitcher on our staff. We're going to pay $17 million of his salary for a prospect. Vaughn Grissom actually had 3 hits yesterday, I think. So maybe Grissom can hit. Maybe it'll be worth it. But even so, you're giving up 2024 in the process. Now you're going to trade your closer? But we can plug someone else in there. So now I come back to, well, then why'd you sign him in the first place? Why did you sign Kenley Jansen in the first place? If you didn't think you were going to win, and you're not going to keep him now, why the hell did you sign him then? Like that was your idea of competing? Jansen and Chris Martin, neither of whom wants anyone to bunt against them? I don't know. I'm going to get him more into Jansen too. What did Dave O'Brien say? 5th all time on the save list? You can take that list and flush it. I think saves are the most worthless stat in baseball. One of them.
He passed Craig Kimbrell, who we know can't get outs in the postseason.
So again, that's right. Neither can Jansen, by the way. But that's another one I look at the save record and I say, there's a worthless record, unless it's Mariano Rivera, in which case it's not really the volume of saves, it's the quality of saves that I'm interested in. Anyway, Kevin Majori's got your headlines. Is it Joe Murray tonight? Where the hell's Joe?
He's here.
Oh.
He's yapping up. He's talking about food in the back room.
Shocker. Nobody knows food like Joe.
And baseball cards.
And I say that all joking aside, but when I have a food question, I ask Joe. Majority's got your headlines. We'll see you tomorrow.
WBCFM from the Town Fair Tire Studios, the home of the Patriots, the Celts, the Revs, and the Bruins. Boston's home for sports is 98.5, the Sports Hub. Please leave the information. Sports Hub headlines.
Red Sox and Orioles are underway in Baltimore. Red Sox went up 2-0 top of the first. Brian Bayo immediately gave it all back. Sox trail 3-2, still in the bottom of the first in that one. Derek White last night hit a 3-pointer with 45 seconds left, and the Pacers couldn't score in the final 3.5 minutes. The Celtics swept the Pacers. 105-102 was the final last night. Celtics are back in the NBA Finals. Game 1 of that is set for June 6th at TD Garden. They will likely be facing the Dallas Mavericks. They have a 3-0 series lead over the Minnesota Timberwolves in the Western Conference Finals. The Mavericks go for the sweep tonight. Tip-off is at 8:30. Yesterday, basketball legend Bill Walton, who led the UCLA Bruins to 2 national titles before winning 2 NBA championships in his career, has died at the age of 71. He was suffering in a battle with cancer. The Patriots have signed quarterback Drake May to his rookie contract. He gets a 4-year deal worth $36.63 million, all fully guaranteed. His signing bonus is $23.46 million. The Houston Texans and Nico Collins have reached a 3-year contract extension worth about $72 million. Other NFL news: the NFLPA is reportedly eyeing a total overhaul of the NFL offseason, which would include the elimination of spring work and expanding training camp. And the Stanley Cup playoffs, Game 4 of the Eastern Conference Finals is tonight. The Rangers have a 2-1 lead over the Florida Panthers in that series. Puck drop a little after 8 in Sunrise, Florida. Sports Up headlines are brought to you by Valvoline. Enjoy quick and convenient vehicle maintenance this month. Visit NewEnglandOilChange.com for 15% off your drive-through oil change at Valvoline Instant Oil Change. Now open in Raynham, Reading, and Braintree. I'm Kevin Managerial on Boston's Home for Sports 98.5 The Sports Up. Joe Murray has you next in a half hour.
This is Kristaps Porzingis.
Left-hand dribble, lobs it. Porzingis catches with one hand and throws it down.
You're listening to the home of